Okay, there we go. We're very happy to have Ashleigh, Karen, Heather, and Falecia here to speak with us today. They're all moms to O babies and are looking forward to sharing their stories with you. Like I said before, their little ones are all under 22 months old, so they are newer in their O journey and looking forward to sharing their stories with us. They'll be telling us a little bit about their experiences with the diagnosis, their pregnancies, their NICU stays, and of course, how their O Warriors are doing now. So we're very excited to have them with us. Before they begin, I wanted to just remind everybody that nobody here is a doctor, and we're not offering any medical advice. Of course, we are moms here sharing our personal experiences, so please direct any of your medical questions to your own providers. All right, Ashleigh, I'm going to turn it over to you to get us started.
Right. Hi, everybody. My name's Ashleigh. I live in Newfoundland, Canada. So my experience is kind of a little bit different than maybe some of the American moms. Just in regards to like we have universal health care, we have different leaves. But if there's anybody that is joining from Canada or is watching this from Canada, feel free to reach out to me just because there's different leaves and stuff that I didn't know about for when your baby's in the NICU. So I'm just navigating the Canadian medical system. I just want to let everyone know that you're not alone, especially Sarah, who's pregnant. You know, I was terrified the entire time. So I actually, we were trying for a long time, and I was 37 when I found out that we were pregnant. We would got referral to a fertility, but we had actually gotten, when we forgot our first round of blood work, we actually found out that I was pregnant on our own. So we did the 10-week ultrasound. Everything looked fine. All my appointments where they checked for the heartbeat was fine. We did the low risk or the NIP test and it came back low risk. So we were quite surprised. Here in Canada, you do like a 10-week and 20-week normally if you have a normal pregnancy and no other issues. So at our 20-week ultrasound, we were told the word omphalocele. And we had never heard it before. Even Andrew, my partner, was even like, "Can you spell that for us?" Like, so we were very coldly told by a radiologist. So I still have a lot of PTSD from that day. The sweater I had on, I can't look at in my closet. Like this really nice blue sweater. I have not worn it since. Yeah, that was a really, really rough day. So then we basically had 2 weeks to decide if we were continuing with the pregnancy or not. So when we got referred to MFM and we had a bunch of other appointments like fetal MRI, fetal echo, because the cutoff where I live for medical determination is 22 weeks and 6 days. But I found all those appointments moved really quickly. We elected to do the amnio as well. I know there's risks and some people are for and against, but we elected to do it just because we wanted to have all the information. So it turned out that our little girl had an isolated O, so we decided to move forward with the pregnancy, and which was good was we were able to meet with the surgeon and the NICU because quality of life was a big question for us, and you know we were being told all these scary things about genetic issues and that kind of thing, but we were very reassured with the team that we met with. So yeah, I had a lot of ultrasounds. I counted the other day because I could get access to my medical stuff online, and I actually had 20 ultrasounds between 20 and 35 weeks. She did develop a little bit of ascites around, I want to say it was around 20, 29 weeks. And so don't Google the word ascites because that's terrifying. But then it actually turned out to be a good thing because it actually made room in her abdomen for her organs to fall back in. Audrey was also born at 35 weeks. So my water broke on my birthday of all days. We were gearing up to schedule my section and my water broke. And everything went pretty smoothly. I had a C-section with a bikini cut. They just cut me a little bit wider, just to make sure they could get her out really safely and not rupture her O. I did get to see her and like hear her and got to see her. They kind of just showed her to me really quick, but they did have to take her off to a recess room to make sure that she was stable. Her O was very large, especially because of the ascites in it. So originally had been told paint and weight was a possibility. We had only met with surgery one time when I was pregnant, and then we were going to kind of firm up our plans. But the original surgeon we had met with was on holiday, and we ended up getting the senior surgeon who's been there for like, they kind of say he's been there since the dawn of the hospital. He's been there, I think, 25, 30 years. And he at one point was president of the Canadian Pediatric Surgeon Association. So we trusted in what he was kind of telling us, and he was saying that he felt like there was room in the abdomen. So On day one, he placed a silo, and she had full closure on day 8. So that was a really rough week, seeing her very, very sedated and organs in a bag, and that kind of method. So it was a lot of at the beginning, as opposed to maybe a paint and wait approach. She was ventilated for 19 days because she was in a bit of basically a medically induced coma, and then she had to wean off her sedation. She did come off the ventilator really well. She was on a little bit of nasal oxygen for a couple weeks, but again, all her organs had just been pushed back into her body. We did get full closure on day 8, so we did actually get her skin and fascia closed. The thing I really liked about our NICU was that we were always really included in the rounds, and we had this little book that I bought from Amazon, and you could like rate the day and her doctors and her nurses and rate things from rounds. And they like to let us present her, and I really liked it. And they let us decorate our bed space a little bit, so it didn't feel so scary. She was on TPN for the first little bit, and then we started introducing feed slowly via NG. I did try to breastfeed. It was very, very difficult. She was tired. There was like a million nurses hovering around you all the time. I pumped right from the start. I did end up exclusively pumping for 13 months, and I feel like I deserve some kind of award for that. Because washing pump parts is not fun multiple times per day. But yeah, she never quite got a latch, and she like had a lot of gagging. She wouldn't take a pacifier. I do think a lot of it was caused oral aversion from the NG, and just everything that she'd been through. I was convinced that when we got home, it would get easier when there wasn't a million nurses hovering around me trying to ask me how much she drank. But we were discharged after 67 days, and she came home with the NG. I will say the NICU time is really good to have like leaning on our family. We were lucky that we didn't have any other kids at home. We just have 2 cats. So like my mom and my sister would like come and put groceries in our fridge and feed the cats, and that was really, really good. So lean on your family. Again, feeding was her biggest struggle. She really regressed at home. NG tube and all the trying to get her to eat kind of I think contributed to a lot of like tube dependence. She also vomited constantly. I tried everything. I tried like feeding her slowly, tried syringe feeding, tried gravity feeding, tried doing it over an hour, like everything. I was like reaching out to moms from years long posts and that kind of thing. I'm sure I've talked to Falecia a few times. Whose little one was also on a feeding tube for a while. So, what ended up being the trick for us was that they were asking, and they do a lot with preemie babies, but I don't know if our hospital had a lot of experience with omphalocele, but they were asking me to add formula to my breast milk to make it higher calories to make her gain really fast. And if you've talked to any moms, our babies don't gain the same as everybody else. So the fortification was actually making her vomit a lot. So I even went dairy free. We went to dairy free formula. What really did the trick was there was a shortage of the formula, and I couldn't get in touch with the dietitian, so I gave her plain breast milk, and she didn't vomit after 3 days, and it was like a tap turned off. But it was like horrendous. We tried medication, everything. It was projectile vomiting all the time. So she actually gained way better being off the fortification because calories don't count if you throw them up. So once she stopped vomiting, she had more oral interest. So we taught her how to drink from a straw at 7 months from the honey bear. And then she got off her tube. She eventually, got to a goal volume that they were happy with breast milk at 11 and a half months, just before her first birthday. The first year we were followed a lot by audiology, physical therapy, OT dietitian, and our surgeon is very hands-on. We see him like very, very often. I call him the king of the JMA, which is our hospital, because every point we go to, they just ask us, what did Dr. Price say? Because I feel like he's just been there so long that they just bow down to him. She's just passed her last audiology, but that was one I wasn't expecting. But because sometimes babies that are ventilated sometimes have hearing issues, but she's passed, so we're past that. The only one that we really still see is the dietitian. PT, she's kind of discharged as well. She's walking, that kind of thing. She was a little behind on her physical milestones, but cognitively, everything great. She's saying lots of words. And then hernia, because she was closed so early, he's just been monitoring a little bit of a hernia, but he's not in any rush to do anything with it. And in fact, last appointment, he said it's actually healed up so nicely that like he doesn't know if he will ever do anything with it. But she's thriving, and she's petite. So I am out sometimes that people will comment. I'm at the mommy groups, and there's some kids that are like double her size. And I kind of use this learning opportunity to talk about a little bit of Falecia if I feel comfortable in that situation. If someone does make a comment, sometimes I know it's a friend and whatever. They kind of say it in jest, and I said, "Well, what a horrible life she's going to have being blonde, blue-eyed, and skinny." Or I'll say, well, her organs weren't in her body. So sometimes I kind of try to find the humor in it. Um, anyway, my advice to any new moms or expecting moms is to go to therapy. I started when I was pregnant, which I really, um, I'm glad I did. And I kind of specialized with someone who was in that fetal world. So I felt really comfortable doing that. And I'm still going to therapy even now at 18 months. I'm a teacher. I'm still not back to work. I'm all my life is her right now and the feeding tube and everything. So I feel like I'm not really ready to go back to look after other children right now. Um, yeah, lean on your Facebook groups. Feel free to message any of us at any time. Me, you can message me. I'm very happy to pay it forward for all the moms that would talk to me at like 2 a.m. I did a lot of puzzles when I was pregnant. I don't know if I felt like that was the only thing I could really focus on. And my other advice is to have a baby shower. It was one thing that I'm really glad I did. Looking back, I don't know if I really wanted to, but it allowed me to find some joy. And if anyone's wondering, I know some people asked about baby advice. That little NICU book is good. I do have a list I posted in the group, and I can also send you a list of like just helpful NICU things that I found for like baby and me. Like one of them is like my breast friend pillow. It's like a shackle, and it's really good for like all that skin to skin stuff because it actually like clips on. So if you can get your hands on one of those, they're great. I live in a humid climate, so like if you're gonna pump, you need the Dr. Brown's bottle sterilizer and dryer included. Just because if not, nothing dries ever. But yeah, there's some little things like that like you can find in the list. And yeah, find joy in your pregnancy.
Thank you, Ashley. I agree, you do deserve an award for pumping all that time. That is hard work for sure. All right, who would like to go next? Karen, Heather, Falecia, anyone want to volunteer?
I can go next.
Okay, go ahead.
Mhm. Yeah, and I also like I pumped for I think I exclusively pumped for almost a year. Make sure if you do that, make sure you actually record how much milk you have in the freezer because I think I did it for maybe like 11 months because I was like, yes, I'm gonna make it, and then it goes by so quickly. Um, but we also fortified and everything like that, which seems to be pretty common. So my name is Karen. My son is Liam. He's 20 months old. He also had isolated omphalocele, giant omphalocele with liver. Originally, there was a little bit of bowel in there, but the bowel went back in. And I have a stepson, he's 15, and they, are now starting to find their little ways to get along. At first, he was like, "Why does he sleep all the time?" But and now he's always, in his room doing all things to him. Um, so we first heard of the, diagnosis at our anatomy scan, and I was on edge anyway, having a miscarriage right before. And then the MFM was really nice, though. He was just really gentle about it and said, like, I am not an expert. I don't know about this. Like, it could go here, it could go like that. And he was the one that first referred us to CHOP. I live in Pennsylvania. We're in Berks County, like kind of by the Reading area. But then that night, when we finally got a phone call from our OBGYN, he was very different, like very much just blunt, like think about termination. He said it like 3 times. And then when my husband questioned him about it, he said, well, you know, he's not going to have a good quality of life. I mean, he's thriving right now, like thriving. Um, so anyway, so eventually we found the Move Facebook group and then just seeing all the different stories. Definitely, he didn't once mention CHOP. He was like, you guys can still come through me. Um, and so we are lucky enough that we live close enough to Philadelphia to do that. So we decided to then go through CHOP and we did the full day where they do all the different tests on you and scans and everything that you'll do, but they get all the information. So it turns out that it was really very isolated. He actually has always had really strong, well-developed lungs, which isn't always common. So then we kind of had back and forth a lot between some people said paint and wait. Really, the only person that was thinking that he wanted to do something different, the Schuster method, was actually like the head surgeon there. However, I never really fully, that was just what I felt. But towards the end, we ended up going with paint and wait. I actually changed surgeons. So if you don't feel that connection in your heart is right, like I had to ask more towards the end when I finally met this other surgeon that I really wanted, because she is the head of a group that follows these children. So he's actually going to be followed through her from his adolescence. And they do developmental assessments all the time on him, which has been great as well. So we spent 2 months in the hospital. He only spent a few days in the actual NICU. The rest of the time was in the ITCU, which is just like kind of like the step down. So he really didn't need very intensive care. So we were there for the rest of the time. He was on room air within a few days and starting to take milk within a few days as well. So, so that part was great. I think one of the hardest parts about being in the hospital is, well, when you're in the NICU, it's at least the where we were, it was really open. But when I went to the ITCU, we had a lot more privacy. But it's like weird having to ask permission to hold your child. And then, depending on your nurse, like I thought that you would have the same nurses all the time in my brain, and they were all going to be like, yay, and playing with your baby and stuff. But um, someone different all the time. So some of them might be a little bit more like, oh, I'm sorry, there's too many wires and things like that. You can't just go grab your child. You need to ask one of us. And then others were like, it's okay. So, feeling like being an actual mom, like to him, like was a little bit weird too. And like, going home to sleep away from him and things like that. Um, so anyway, so we had decided to do paint and wait. So he was there for about 2 months just to work on growing the skin. So that was the worst part of the day, was wrapping his O, because nothing we tried could help calm him down. They tried music therapy, they tried everything. And it just was just so uncomfortable with him. So he would scream whenever we had to change it. But so we did that. And then to also gain more weight as well, the fortification. And he also vomited all the time. I would only wear black to the hospital because I knew it would wipe off easily anything that he spit up on me. Um, so also though, when I was pregnant, physically I was great, but mentally and emotionally was a huge struggle. I actually disassociated a lot, so I couldn't go near the nursery. I couldn't look at anything, and I couldn't allow myself to like be excited. I couldn't buy anything. The only people that were allowed to be excited were my students. They were just over the moon for it. But I did end up reaching out to the mental health through CHOP, and the psychiatrist upped my medication that I was currently on. And then I did every once in a while see a therapist through the hospital, but I do wish in hindsight I went and actually got myself an actual like therapist at that point. I mean, I do see her now. I do it virtually when he's napping, so that's been amazing. Um, so it was really very hard to even just kind of accept, the pregnancy and everything like that. And I was always so worried, like I was gonna make me a bad mom. But once I think it was just that unknown, and that's one of the hardest parts too, is there's so many different stories. Everyone has a different experience, and you just don't know. They're even going to tell you, like you'll ask them a million times, how long are we going to be here? And they're to say, we cannot give you a number, we can't give you an answer, because everyone's story is different. We don't know until you finally have him. And then that was like such a relief. We did planned C-section at 37.5. Um, and I stayed at Ronald McDonald House as well most of the time. And then sometimes I would come home. But my husband stayed home as well. So there was, because of my stepson. So that was hard on us, hard on our marriage and everything like that, to be separated. And I felt, really very alone when I was there all the time. Um, but now he is my best friend. He's thriving, and the issues, I think, like I said, he always will is going to have the weight issues. Um, and then he did have physical therapy until about a year old when he was able to walk. And at least in Pennsylvania, if you were in the hospital for that long, then you automatically will get services. But don't be afraid to fight with early intervention, because if it's like you will get your way. Like they tried kicking us out. We had different service coordinators throughout, but the one was like really strict, and like she, even before he had surgery, he had I was trying to like kick us out of like the physical therapy, and my physical therapist was like, no, like he's not ready yet. And then it was through CHOP that we realized he was a little bit behind with language. So then I had to fight to even get that. He gets a special instructor. She comes every week, and we're now that he's 20 months, like we're most recent assessment at CHOP was seeing that his receptive language is way higher than his expressive. So we're going to finally go and see a private speech therapist and see what we can do about that. But he did have surgery at 9 months. So we did the closure then. That's why weight was always a big issue, and I was wondering like why are they always pushing it so much, until the surgeon said, well, if there's no extra skin, then I can't do the surgery, because you need to be able to have something to close it. But he healed really well from that. She tried a new vac type of way to heal it, and he did really well with that, except for it was much different child at 9 months, like eating wires and everything like that, than having a baby in the NICU. So that was definitely very different. Another thing too is like coming home from spending your days in the hospital was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. It was really strange. Coming back, it's almost like you do have like a form of like PTSD almost with it, but like you come home and you're just like, wow, everything was still going on, and now you have to find a whole new way to work with everything. Um, Also, too, like if you can find someone that did go to the same hospital, like I had found someone who delivered at CHOP, and so like even just things like talking to her about how was the delivery there, like what did they provide for you, what do I have to like, so just kind of seeing, because everyone's hospitals are different too, and everyone's NICUs are different, like some allow decorations and allow stuffed animals, like she said, but ours you couldn't have anything stuffed animals, they didn't really want you to decorate or anything like that, so definitely can be very different. And again, and I just echo that too, like get your mental health, um don't be afraid to like seek help with that, so, and reach out to any of us.
Thank you, Karen. I absolutely agree that not enough people talk about the mental and emotional toll that all of this takes on you while you're pregnant and after. And also, great piece of advice there. We have a directory on owarrior.org. You can look up by location or by hospital. So if you are interested in trying to find another O family close by to you, you can reach out for instructions on how to access that, or just go online and hopefully connect to other people close to you who are going through the same thing or have already been there. See, Heather or Falecia, who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Okay. Tell me, do you want me to go ahead and start the
Yeah, thanks. I kind of have it written down too, just in case I can't see it, because I'm not sure what I'll be able to see. So,
can you see it? It's not letting me like launch the. Can you see your presentation, Heather, or no?
yeah, it's just a little small,
Yeah,
but it's fine.
okay. It's not letting me launch it. Okay, I'll do best I can with this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
But so this is Oliver's story. So I am 41 years old, and I had two miscarriages, which is the next slide if you want to just send it to the next one. So I had two miscarriages prior to being pregnant with Oliver, and I lost the first one when they were 12 weeks old. And then the second one I lost when they were 8 weeks old. So, yes. So, after that, they told me that I wouldn't be able to have kids. So my husband and I just kind of stopped trying them because, I mean, they had told us that it wouldn't happen. And, it was, so when they told us that, we kind of just, stopped trying. And, then it was quite the surprise then when I was feeling really sick and I didn't know what was going on. And my sister-in-law is a nurse. And when I told her what was going on, she told me to take a test. And I ended up taking 5 tests because I didn't believe any one of them was real. So, and then you can go to the next slide. So I found out that I was pregnant on July 4th, 2023. And at that time, I was 39. And since I was considered geriatric pregnancy, they had me go to maternal fetal medicine. And at my 12-week scan, they told us that Oliver had an omphalocele. And like everybody else, I had no idea what that was. So as they were explaining it to us, which this is the scan that they showed me, and I kind of circled the omphalocele and his head. So in this picture, his head is at the top, and he's and you can see his spine a little bit. And then the omphalocele is about the same size as his head was. So they estimated that there were 4 organs inside. And so along the same lines as everybody else, we had a really great maternal fetal medicine doctor. She was really compassionate when she was telling us, which hearing other stories from other moms, unfortunately, they did not get that compassion with theirs. And it made me feel really sad for them because, we really didn't have the negative aspects that a lot of people go through. We had a baby shower and we were, obviously we went and did a lot of research. My husband is big into research. So the second we found out about it, we kind of went home and went into research mode, which is the next slide if you want to turn that. We looked up pretty much everything that we possibly could. He told me about the Moo site as well, and the Born Able and the O Warriors. We pretty much joined everything at that point, and it was nice to see other people going through the same stuff. And I loved seeing the the posts from the mothers of the babies that were now graduating high school and doing dance and showing their fully closed stomachs. And it was just really nice to see what the future would entail once he was born. So then we you go to the next one. During the pregnancy, I had a really easy pregnancy considering I was older. They thought that I would have to be on bed rest, but I never had to go on bed rest, which was great. And they said that I would have to have a C-section to get him out because he is considered a giant omphalocele because of the multiple organs inside. And so when they told me I would have to have a C-section, I was pretty upset about it because I was actually hoping to not have an epidural at all because I'm not really great with needles, and having to already have a million needles during the pregnancy, I was a little hesitant about it. But once I was resigned to the fact that, there's really no other way to get him out, it was a lot easier for me to take and to handle. And this was the picture of me here is the day before I delivered. So that was like the only picture I have where I actually looked pregnant. All the other ones just looked like I had gained like 10 pounds. So that one actually made me look like I was pregnant. So that's my favorite picture from the whole pregnancy. And if you want to go to the next one. So delivery, I was scheduled for a C-section on March 12th at 39 weeks. But at the 2 days before my 37 weeks, I had to have twice a week non-stress tests because of my overweight and my age and stuff. So they made me go twice a week Monday and Friday to do the non-stress test. And my blood pressure was I think it was like 190 over 100. And they had maxed out my medication. And so we went to CHOP on the 37 weeks. And we actually brought our bags and everything because I pretty much knew they were going to take him that day, because when we got there, my blood pressure was still really high, and they waited like a half an hour and it was still high. And she was like, "Did you bring your stuff?" And I was like, "We did." So they pretty much, we kind of knew it was going to happen. So he was actually born on February 26th, which is his dad's birthday. So that was really sweet. I loved the fact that he was born on his dad's birthday. But he was 37 weeks. He was born at 413, 6 pounds, 2 ounces, and 17.3 inches long. So if the day we had him, we actually had the non-stress test, and they said that his weight was about 3 pounds. And I couldn't believe it, because I'm like, there's no way he's 3 pounds. Like, he's definitely heavier than that. So they will definitely give you a smaller birth weight. So don't, really believe it, because it's hard for them to measure because of how the omphalocele kind of shrinks the abdomen. So, but he was born at the University of Philadelphia Hospital. And then he was immediately taken to CHOP. I didn't actually know he was born until they said he was out and in the other room. So I didn't even know that they had gotten him out. They had to, unfortunately, cut me from about 2 inches below my chest all the way down to my belly button, because his head was under, like in my ribs, and his feet were all the way down. So they had to cut me really, really big, and to get him out. So and when he was born, he didn't have 4 organs. He had 5 organs in his omphalocele. It was his liver, intestines, kidney, bladder, and colon were in his omphalocele. And you can switch to the next one. I think that's the, yep. And then, so he was in, they estimated that we would be in the NICU for about 6 months to a year. And thankfully, that wasn't the case. We were only in for 97 days. And he never had to have any oxygen. I think they had it on for a few minutes, not very long. And he was breathing fine. I had to get the steroid shots prior to delivery to help improve his lung function. And he also was on the fortified breast milk. I am still pumping, and it is not fun. I am at over 11 months, and I cannot wait until the day that I dry up, because it is slowly killing me. But, and then, so yeah, he was in, if you want to go to the next one. Yeah, he was, this is the kind of the progression of his omphalocele. So the top one is where it started. I didn't actually take right away. I wasn't really, I didn't take too many pictures while he was like, not covered, just for the fact, like, I didn't want to, like, scare family members that weren't really sure what was going on. But as, time went on, they wanted to see it more and more. So I actually started taking more and more pictures. And then the top corner, is what he currently is now. So he's fully clothed, I'm sorry, and much further down, but he is still unrepaired. We go in March to CHOP, and they're going to hopefully evaluate him, because we are finally starting to gain some weight. He was also vomiting horrifically, and it's like a geyser. It's just awful when it does come out. And he has an NG tube, and we are hoping, once the surgery is done, that we can start weaning him off of that, because it is a lot to deal with. He was in the NICU for 97 days. I also stayed at the Ronald McDonald House the whole time, because we live about 2.5 hours from Philly. And my husband went back to work, so it was pretty much just me every day. I'd stay at the Ronald McDonald House, go over to him, and I pretty much did everything his daily care. We actually place the NG tubes and stuff ourselves at home and do everything like that, wrap his omphalocele. And but yeah, so it's pretty much what it, and then if you want to go to the last one. And then, so he is currently over 11 months. We are planning his first birthday party, which is Mickey Mouse themed because he is obsessed. And yeah, we going to chop in March, and we'll most likely be scheduling his closure surgery then. But yeah, he is doing PT once a week, and he does OT, trying to break the bottle aversion. He is definitely tube dependent. He doesn't take very much at all by mouth anymore, so we're trying to work on that and get to the point where he won't have to have the NG tube anymore. And yeah, that's pretty much it. He's just the absolute best. And then these are just some pictures. That was him in the Jefferson car seat for the first time, and then when he got to see Santa for the first time and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you want to actually see him, he is over here with Daddy. And this is Oliver. Yeah, I know. That's a phone. Say hi. You say hi.
Happy
Yeah.
early birthday, Oliver.
Say thank you.
That's so fun. I hope he has a wonderful birthday. That's very exciting, planning the first one. Thanks for
I have a
sharing,
question.
Heather.
Oh, sure.
Oh, just hi. How did he do in the car seat? How did you
He
put him in with everything?
he's pretty good in the car seat. He just, for some reason, every time we put him in the car seat, he seems to projectile vomit everywhere. So we wait hours after he eats, and he still does it. So we kind of place him in the seat and just don't hook him right away. And then once he starts to like gag or make a noise, we'll just kind of take him out and let him hopefully throw up. And then buddy, yeah, I know you like the phone.
But you're able to put him in though with the
Yeah.
omphalocele. Like yeah.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
interesting,
we actually have a regular car seat now. We don't have the Jefferson anymore. We got to give that back to Chop since we just kind of borrowed
Okay.
it from them.
Okay. Cool. Oh, he's so cute.
Thanks.
All right, Falecia, your turn.
Hi. Um, so I'm from Notre Dame, Indiana, and when we first found out about our daughter's omphalocele, I was 20 weeks, and our doctor wasn't necessarily like doom and gloom, so to speak, but she was definitely a little bit insensitive when explaining to us exactly what it was, what was going to happen from that point forward. However, once we made it to the maternal fetal medicine, we actually traveled 2.5 hours to Chicago, Illinois, um, to the Lori Children's Hospital, and they gave us pretty much like the best prognosis. They're like, she's gonna be fine. She's gonna be eating burritos, like all of these things. They had me get an MRI actually while I was pregnant with her to get a better picture of exactly what organs were contained in her umbilical. And we found out it was all of the liver and a few loops of her bowel. So we also did the amniocentesis. Um, again, I know that's a little bit of a controversial subject, and for us, no matter the results, it really wasn't going to change anything, but we just wanted to have the most information preparing us as possible. So we did end up finding something unrelated to her omphalocele, a little chromosomal abnormality, which we keep an eye on, but it had nothing to do with her overall prediction of health. Um, so nothing too concerning there. Um, Oh, let's see. So something I wanted to bring up is like just like a poor prognosis, they don't really know until the baby is here. So we were given like pretty good odds. She was born crying. We got to hear her cry. And so I immediately I was like, yes, like everything's gonna be okay. However, very quickly, she did need to be put on a ventilator. And they discovered that she had pulmonary hypertension. Her lungs were really small. Um, and she was just having a hard time. Um, about a week old, her omphalocele actually ruptured. It happened out of nowhere. I had been visiting her. I was looking at her. She was just so cute and so beautiful. She looked like a little baby doll. And I went to sit down to get my pump stuff ready. And all of a sudden, like things were dinging and there was 20 people inside the room. Her omphalocele had ruptured. We don't really know what had happened. So they immediately put a silo on her, which is it kind of looks like a plastic bag, kind of. So they put the silo on her, and then we tried to close her up well, she started getting infections. So used a different method called Gore-Tex. Um, I guess they had tried to close her up, but she was under too much respiratory distress, so she was not ready yet. So they were using this material called Gore-Tex, and it's kind of like the same material that you'd use for like a rain jacket or rubber boots. It's pretty strange how it works. However, she was still suffering with her infections. Um, so they ended up doing the wound vac. And during a routine wound vac change, her wound actually reopened back up and they had to do emergency surgery. They ended up going back to Gore-Tex and then she started getting infections again. So after that, we went back to the wound vac. They had tried to close her up a second time. Um, and that was when they discovered that because of the infections that she was suffering from, there just wasn't enough strong fascia, healthy fascia, to hold everything together. So at one final attempt of keeping everything put together. They used a biological mesh. I'm not quite sure what it was, but they were able to use that to connect to the healthy fascia. And then she was in a medically induced coma for about a week to promote healing because regardless of all the medications they had my girl under, she was just so active and very resilient. Um, so after we finally got to a point with the wound vac where she did not need it anymore and we could perform, they taught us how to do our own wound care, which felt really good to finally have some control over her care and like just to feel like we were a part of her care as well. Um, and just to learn more about okay, what are we looking for? This looks healthy. It may look gross, but that's healthy. That's what we're looking for. Things like that. Um, and after a few weeks, she started to slowly, gradually come off of her vent. Her pulmonary hypertension was slowly starting to resolve. They had her on a nasal cannula for maybe only a week, and then she was on room air. And then they taught us how to do the NG tube in the hospital, which was nice. So then we could perform that care on our own when we brought her home as well. We spent a total of 5 months and 2 weeks in the NICU. And she was completely NG dependent and she had oral versions she couldn't take a pacifier for a very long time or a bottle, but we just kept working on it. Patience, it fluctuated a lot. It ebbed and flowed. There were times where she was making really good progress with her oral versions. And then there were times where she would kind of regress a little bit. It's a learning curve for us and for them as well. Um, Finally, at 10 months old, we teamed up with our pediatrician and her feeding therapist, and we all giving our Evelyn the hugest leap of faith. We just decided what would happen if she took it out and we just never put it back in. And somehow, some way it worked. It worked for us. I would not suggest that for anyone and everyone. However, I think that her history and the support that we had, and we had resources and we knew how to put it back in if it wasn't going to work. So yeah, I'm not advising that anyone take that route. However, that's what we did and it worked for us. Um, Today, Evelyn is 2 years old and she lives a pretty uncomplicated toddler life. She's a little bit behind developmentally, especially comparing her to her peers. However, because of the resources that we have for her, we have her in OT, PT, and feeding speech therapy. It's not really something that's a huge concern for us. We know she'll get there on her own time. Um, and today she loves to swim, she loves to dance, she loves to hike, gardening, she loves animals. And she's just a normal kid. She's so sassy, you'd never think that she'd gone through anything like that. And also I wanted to mention advice. Oh, I forgot. This is super random, but my daughter, because she was having such a hard time getting repaired, she was on positional restrictions, so we could not hold her, and she could only lay on her back. We had her in a helmet until she was a year old. We absolutely loved it. Was an adjustment, but we absolutely loved what it did for her. So don't be afraid to um, if someone offers devices to better your child's life or strength, anything like that, I would not be opposed to that. And my advice is also like do the gender reveal, do the baby shower, make it special. Um, you deserve to feel special, and your baby deserves to feel special. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Falecia. She sounds like an amazingly strong little girl. And I hear you on the sass.